it's great to see everybody here today. We had a quiet deep dive last month, so I'm happy to see all of you. I'm going to roll call for all of the attendees for deep dive today. Emily Bonilla here. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Right forward.
Perfect. Eugene Staccato.
Here.
Perfect. And Bob Olson. It was great meeting you today. I already called the order.
Okay, and so we'll hand over to Eugene.
Forward and you want to do, it says public comment first, so does anyone get up and make some comments on the comments?
I'll give even the audience a couple of minutes to provide public comment, anything they want to share with us.
In a couple of minutes, 2-3 minutes, just name it. If you do stand, just give us name and address.
Anyone?
I mean, I do have something to say.
But this is it, and if you want to say it.
It's in regards
We
to,
can hand them
You want
the.
Mike? Get those off.
Just so that the recording can get you.
Yeah. No, only there.
good evening, everybody. Mic check. Thank you, Commissioner Bonilla, and yes, I'm sure the parties that are here appreciate you. Commissioner, thank you for your commitment to our community, safe place to stay, and for being here this evening to hear our concerns as well. My name is Richard Ramirez. I live in the Arbor Point subdivision. Can you hear me okay? I'm a homeowner at Arbor Point subdivision. Is on property, so I have my property. We do not have an HOA. I'm representing the approximately 275 residents who live there. We have an ongoing traffic road hazard at the stop sign located at Hellcrest Drive and Kinlock Drive. Specifically, the stop sign is facing south. But to be quite frank, Commissioner, it's not just that one stop sign, it's the whole T section, because the other stop sign is facing north. And basically what's happening, Commissioner, is that we have vans, we have cars, maintenance vehicles, delivery vehicles, you name it, school buses, tow trucks, motorcyclists, FedEx, et cetera, et cetera. They are simply not stopping. They're just not stopping. And not only not stopping, they're speeding. And I can attest to this with other witnesses that live there also with me. And I also have a 24/7 camera that is recording. I stopped counting after 100. That's the God's honest truth. I had contacted 311 back in March. I had contacted the Orange County Sheriff's Office. I contacted Mayor Devin's office. I contacted Dr. Mirza Mazou, Chief Engineer Traffic Engineering. And respectfully, I contacted your office back in May. And continually, I'm working with Assistant 3. The last correspondence was July 17th. What has been done? Orange County Sheriff's Office, I appreciate you folks. They did dispatch, I spoke to Laura. When I did contact the Orange County Sheriff's Office, it was Laura I spoke to, and she, two motorcycle officers were dispatched on May 15th. I have been told that more officers have been there. I've not seen it, but it's maybe weren't there. But the bottom line is, Commissioner, the officers are there. They leave. It's no good. I did email Dr. Lassou, and I recommended to Dr. Lassou. Let's go to downtown. So we've all seen it. So sure. We have 2 flags here. On the stop sign, and we also have, the lights.
What was the intersection? I'm sorry, what was the intersection again?
it was a Delcrest Drive at Kinlock Drive, and the stop sign is facing south, and the other one's also an issue too. And I know what, I have a theory about what's happening, why it's happening, but, this was the other thing I sent to, Dr. C for stop sign ahead. My theory is this, is that our subdivision has been there since the nineties, a little over 30 years. We've had a yield sign there for 30 years. You take the stop sign out, somebody told me, I told them, hey, Chris, did you notice the stop sign? I said, no, the stop sign is right in front of my house. That's why I didn't even get it. You have to take a rock and hit it 100 feet away from it. So then my theory is, you know what, there's no acclimation here. That's one of the theories. But I have contact, like I said, Commissioner, I have contacted your office. I'm basically asking for your assistance here. Because what's happening right now is that, like I said, I contacted the doctor back in May. It is approximately August. There has been some progress, but they're not stopping. So can you please assist us in this, Commissioner? So I have spoken to your assistant three, and she is assisting me. I mean, it's been since May. That's quite a long time.
Yeah, has Masood come out and did any studies?
I'm sorry?
Has Masood done any studies?
No, you should study.
A study?
Yeah, no, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that was going to be my other recommendation, is that at the very least send a survey team out there. And yet, matter of fact, I'm glad you said that. I would like to invite anybody that wants to come here, anybody that's here, come to my house, sit on my porch for 10 minutes. Just sit there for 10 minutes and you'll see what I see every day. Every day. I can't do it. Yes, that's good. I can speak forward, but we have officers and we have little figures that can help out. So can you please help us? I don't want to what happened to that gentleman, to that young boy at Arbor Ridge West 1 week before Christmas. A couple of years ago, got killed because he got hit by a reckless driver, speeding right. That's what they're trying to avoid.
Can I see those pictures?
Sure.
Yeah. Prior to the end.
Did you give your address at the beginning? I can't remember now.
I actually stay. I'm at 2804 Delcrest Drive. If I may share this. Commissioner Bonilla there, Cynthia.
So, I mean, let me ask I don't know the routes. Is it a full-way stop and there's all right through it?
Yeah, I'm trying to see exactly what came in with the stop sign.
Is there space, if you were the king, how would you solve this problem? I mean, stop lights don't stop people, because I watched right in front of me, someone go 60 miles an hour with red lights.
That's a good question. What I would do is, and of course it's a little difficult when you don't have an HOA, I would probably put what you force on speed bumps, but that takes a little bit, you have to have a consensus and monetary funding. What I would do at the very least is put those flags up, put a neon light, or put 3 stop signs.
Is there space for a roundabout in that section? Is there something that's so people can't go straight through? I don't know. Is there space for a roundabout?
So Kinlock comes from the Econ Trail.
Yeah.
And it dead ends, it's like a cul-de-sac, it dead ends in Delcrest Drive. So you could only go left or right.
It's a T intersection.
Like the T
Yeah. So when they're coming in the opposite direction, they do not stop in front of.
I mean, first, I like roundabouts if there's space. I mean, of course, this is up to the commissioner, but roundabouts you can't run through. You got to go around. You got to slow down unless you want to get to the middle of it. So, and they always work when the power goes out.
Right, because it's a T intersection, I think if you put 3 stop signs there, that might.
But we have.
There's only 2 stop signs.
You're looking
I
at another.
can't see the full image, so right now there's only a stop sign here, there's no stop sign.
Oh, no,
And
I'm
it's on
sorry.
the neighborhood or the other side.
No, I'm sorry. That picture is completely, that is not a picture of that location that's downtown. So that was just an example of what I was showing the doctor of what he may choose to do. Put flags on it. That's not an intersection.
I mean, I think that, I mean.
So the
if it-
intersections Kenlock and Delcrest?
They drive, they just drive.
Okay.
Yes, the T intersection coming out of Econ Trail.
T?
the T-
Econ Trail goes right into, it connects to Kinlock.
Oh, okay, I got it.
You see it there, right? It's a T
Yeah.
intersection.
It's not just one of the red dot, it's this one here.
Yeah, because I mean, same situation, sort of like down, like they get goes right into, what is it?
First of all,
It's a T junction, and I talked to the commissioner right there, it'd be a perfect spot for a roundabout, because it's a mess. Everyone's like, and it backs up really bad. A roundabout would allow the traffic to flow, but no one potentially would kill each other when they try to run into the roundabout.
yeah, there's no room here for a roundabout.
Yeah, there's no room there for, it's literally a T intersection.
The thing about what I've heard from the fire marshals, they really don't want to put money humps in because it's delaying the emergency services now to the point where they're getting concerned that they can't get EMTs to the sites.
I think they have a new design now.
Do they?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, Orlando has a terrible one because it rips you apart. You go 5 miles out. They just go 1 5.
But I mean, this part is just
Well,
not,
we do have a sheriff's office. I'm not putting you on the spot, but thank you for coming. Can you introduce yourself? And I don't know if you're familiar with this. area?
I'm familiar with the area, and certainly I applaud you for reaching out to Laura Chan, who's spoken with our traffic office, and she is one of the administrative folks down there that takes the complaints, so you apparently know that process. And, I'd love to have deputies be able to go out there 24 hours a day and enforce that, but I don't think that's a very rational solution to the problem, so I applaud you for bringing it to the commissioner to bring it to Public Works and Dr. Masood look into. There are traffic mitigation techniques that can be effective, whether it's lighting or like you said, turning it into a multi-stop intersection. Speed mitigation devices like the speed bumps or the speed humps, signage. There's a lot of things, but
nothing's
I
being
can't
done.
say
It's
that.
a problem. You see
Yeah, and that's why certainly we're here with the commissioner. But from the sheriff's office perspective, you've done everything that we would ask you. Just continue to make the proper notifications. We add it to a complaint database, and then that database gets worked as deputies are able and have the ability. So but I like to tell people, be the squeaky wheel. You're the one that will get the grease, and I can't promise you that we'll get out there as frequent as maybe you would like, but if you continue to make the complaint, then it climbs on our priority scale, and we get out there as often as we can.
Appreciate that.
So, Alicia, we'll just make sure that we get with Masood on this to get a study done, or see if there's anything else that we could do. Okay, you can just they hand it back to Eugene.
Is anyone else? Yeah. Oh. The main address and.
Yes, hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Samuel Delgado. I am a representative of Central Florida Jobs and Justice, and I live at 605 East Concord Street in Orlando. And I'm here to talk about medical debt in Orange County. Studies have shown that 17% of residents in Orange County have medical debt, with a median debt of about $1,012. So that's about almost 1 in 5 people, where in communities of color, it's 22% affected with medical debt, with a median debt of 1,063. So we're seeing medical debt having really devastating impacts on families, reporting cutting spending on food and other household needs, and seeing damages to their credit ratings, which can create obstacles to things like being able to rent, to buy a house, and often, in some cases, leading to personal bankruptcy. So I'm here because I spoke about this a couple months ago, trying to get the county to reallocate some of the funds that were allocated to it through the American Rescue Plan Act, knowing that there's over $180 million in funds that are unobligated, knowing that some of those have been allocated already, but that, the decision isn't, legally finalized. And that, the county commission worked really quickly to allocate these funds, but it happened through the pandemic, which made it really hard for people to get to the commission and say these are the things that we need and what we're experiencing right now. And so, we're asking for y'all to revisit that decision in the process. And knowing that other governments across the country, like Cook County in Illinois, New Orleans, Pittsburgh, Toledo, have used some of these funds to clear medical debt for their residents. And we do have ambassadors that we've been in connection with from these counties and municipalities who are willing to work with y'all to look at how they were able to do it and look at strategies on how we could get this done. With knowing that an investment of $100 can wipe out $10,000 in medical debt, that could really be the difference between people being housed today and unhoused tomorrow. So I have a quick one pager here. It has hyperlinks in it that obviously if it's on paper you can't click. So I'd be happy to hear that conversation over email. Thanks for hearing me out.
Anyone else?
Healthcare prices is a big problem that the states, problem this post-pandemic society that we're in, and so I'm really inspired by the Homer Health's initiative and being the only healthcare industry that has grown over the pandemic.
Introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Caitlin. I'm the community success lead for Homer Health. So I'm just here to let the community know that we're here and to just learn more about issues being faced in our community, so I can help bridge that gap with the healthcare access for transparent prices, lower than all of the other competitors for healthcare, and so it's transparent for everybody, whether they're have insurance or self-pay, and we're just really focused on providing affordable and accessible healthcare for all.
Okay, anyone else? Close public comment now. We're going to move on to approval of the minutes from last month, 6/21. With a motion, do we have any problems first? Anyone have time to review? Looking for a motion. Second. Okay. Oh, yeah. All right. All right, next reports. All right, most of my stuff on the first part. The update to CRC. I'm Charter Review Commissioner on that. Emily conned me into.
Well, first, if there's any additions to the agenda and
Approval. Approval. Consider. I'm sorry, I jumped right down my consideration addition. Agenda and review. No.
Just a question. Do you guys have copies of the agenda you can hand out? Yes, a lot of people don't.
Yeah, sorry.
I have an extra one right here.
Any additions by anyone?
Hi, I'm Lucy Gray. If we have time, I saw people in next door talking about an interesting concept. They were concerned about the YMCA at Jay Blanchard Park and how it's been shut since Hurricane Ian. And so citizens were kind of, wondering, like, could it turn into like Orlando Magic Rec Center like this, or Orlando Soccer, or something? That's something I think it's in our district, and we could possibly see if there's something we could do to get that open again.
Sorry, my name is Elizabeth Gray. 4741 Steel Circle. And I think I was supposed to sit up there as part of your team. I was seated in the wrong spot. But if we have time
Yeah,
to
you
throw
want to
that,
sit up there?
it's okay. If we have time to throw that out.
Okay, so do you want to do that bit?
if you want to add that to the end of the agenda,
Yeah.
under new business.
Okay, anything else, anyone else like to add to the upper? Okay, approval of agenda. Motion to approve the agenda as modified. Second. All in favor? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, now finally to the reports of the officers. The CRC, as I said before, I'm the Charter Review Commission. I'm gonna try to look through this pretty quick. The Initiative Petition Committee, if you guys are looking at your, the next meeting is gonna be on August 9th at 1:30 in the Martha Committee, committee, room up on the fourth floor of the admin BCC building, if you guys want to come. The initiative petition is going, last week we actually did pretty good. I don't know how much you guys know about how the petition process has happened in the history. We've had one successful petition in the last 37 years as a charter county, and that was the sick leave, and then that was preempted, unfortunately, by the state in 2012. 2016, they modified the petition process, in my opinion, to the point where nothing could get through. So in 2020, when I saw on the last one, we made some modifications, but not nearly enough. This time we'll be reconsidering it, and we're having really good success on modifying. Originally, to do the petition, some of these numbers were sounding weird, but it was 10% of total voters. It was reduced to 5%. That's for the charter modification. If you want to do ordinance, it went from 7 to, I think, 3. Now that's 3% of the total electorate in Orange County, which is different than what if you ever done an amendment process instead of 4, that's actually based on the last presidential numbers. So that's a big number difference. So Orange County currently has about 865,000 people. The actual election was like 600. So that was a big difference. My fellow chairperson, when we were debating the numbers, I brought up the presidential. He evidently in the back of his head had already pre-calculated that it was down to 4.3%. The detail, but it was a good bargain to get 5%. So it's actually higher than my number, but lower than what he really wanted. So it was a good compromise. We passed that, the modifications in the works now. Anything that we're talking about is not official until it comes out of the committee. And then eventually all these things have to go to the commission of the charter review. Once it gets out, how many people know how the charter review commission works? Okay. The charter review can modify the charter, which is a constitution of the county. The constitution of the county has not only the structure of how our government is put together and how the offices work with each other, it also has other things like we put in last time the rights of nature, which many of you might have voted for. Split oath protection is put in there. This time we're looking at it, and then initiative petition has been there since day one, but it's been modified for different reasons. Now we're trying to bring it back to the pre-2012 point again, so people at least have a shot. It's not going to be an easy process. It's still difficult, but if you have a chance of doing it. So that's one thing that we're doing on petition. So the next meeting's on August 9th. The expansion of the government structures, that's gotten we've got a lot of things hanging off of that now, because the way our chair is working is he's pushing a lot of these things in the existing committee. There are 3 committees, and they're all getting different work levels, and I have to get all of them. So the expansion of county, government structure. We're looking at the county commission potentially expanding it. Currently, we are under discussion of should we go do nothing, 1 commissioner or 2 commissioners. So that's one thing.
Adding to the 6 that we were.
To the 6 that we have today. So that's one of the questions that we're talking about. The next part of that committee will deal with is the frequency of the charter review commission action meeting. Currently, we meet every 4 years, and this discussion should be due to 8 years. We haven't touched that one yet. Term limits. Our chair really wants us to talk about term limits. Currently, we have two term limit, 2 terms for commissioners and mayor. We're the only charter commission in the whole state out of 20 county charters. We're the only one that actually limits our county commissioners. The thinking is that he would like to push to increase by at least 1 term, just because the knowledge that as you gain, the first term is just trying to learn the bureaucracy of the government, and then you're actually affected the second time. So, it's my feeling also that term limits also really hurts that if we don't like the people, unlike them, and we've proven that we can do this. At least in our district, we can.
He's referring to me running against a seated commissioner and not allowing that commissioner to get reelected because I won.
Yeah.
I don't know if everyone can.
Yeah, I mean, this is not going to affect anyone. If this passed, of course, it wouldn't affect this. It would go and affect the next cycle, because it's not, right now the rule says 2 to be done. Separation of powers. This is a big question. The separation of powers dealing with the board. Currently, the mayor sits on the Board County Commission. Originally, in 886, when we passed this, if you read our charter, it actually has a separation of powers clause in there. It says we have an executive, legislative branch, separate. And then it muddies up as soon as we go into the description of what a mayor does. And that changed in 88, and then I think in 92. And what happened was the mayor was put into the council. He or she gets the vote, and also sets the agenda, and also the office management budget actually falls under them. And when we started discussing it opened up a little can of worms, because we realized in 1988, when we were asked this question, we went back to the original language of the charter that citizens saw. It talks about the mayor. It doesn't talk about their attorney as a violation of Florida Statute 101. That whoever was in charge of that didn't actually describe to the citizens what they were actually going on. Because what that did was actually, they deleted a whole section, section 403 in our charter, which actually describes the duties and responsibilities of the county attorney, which actually, their responsibilities were directly to the BCC, not to the mayor. So it was a power shift, and it was a major power shift. Because now, although the BCC and the attorney should be working with the BCC, but as Commissioner can tell you, many times it doesn't always play out that way. So I think that's something we're definitely going to fix, because it only takes a lawsuit to fix that, because it would null and void our charter if that happens. So we're definitely going to probably fix that. I don't know whether the mayor is going to go, but there's a lot of energy on my side at least that we need to change that, because I see dynamics that, and the commissioner would probably back this up, that there's a dynamic of the mayor having too much power. I like separation of powers, so that's why I'm coming from it. How you think differently, please tell me different. Okay, let's see. So the expansion of government structures, we don't have a date yet. It's probably going to be the end of this month. We just have scheduling insanity going on right now because everyone's on holiday. It's August. So I've taken care of the expansion term limits. Okay, charter cleanup. Next one is going to be actually this on 8/3, which I think is Thursday, 11 to 12:30. Again, up in the Mother Haney committee room, and that one's actually is getting expanded too, because now it's actually called workforce housing and charter cleanup, because we were assigned the workforce housing issue. So we're going to look at that. This will be probably the first meeting that we. Actually, it's the second one that we're going to deal directly with the workforce. And also, we got expanded again because we're going to deal with the rural boundaries in this commission. So for you all that live on the east side and want to do something about the rural protection or any of the rural communities, this is the committee that you want to sit in and try to speak to, and please bring your thoughts. Additional topics, rural boundary laws, spoke about public bank. This is something that one of the citizens brought forward, and this brings up a point. If you guys want to bring up anything to the full commission, this was a question at one of our public talks last time at Biffa Community Center. All you have to do is email charter 2024 at OCCOMPT.com, which is the Orange County Comptroller's website, and ask for time on the agenda. And this is the agenda potentially. You can speak to any of the committees, but this is actually get on the agenda of a business meeting. This is our once a month meeting. And Nelson,
That's his last name.
yeah, Nelson actually did this. He came to me, I told him what to do. He submitted, and he actually made a plea on this, and he got the public bank issue up and running. So we're going to be dealing with that. It was on the 9th, but we have scheduling conflicts with our attorney. So, and I think the room is being used. So we were being rescheduled. I just got that late afternoon today. And also Kelly Shimrad, our co-chair, that's how she did the moral boundary. She came to us and spoke to us as a citizen, and she spoke for 7 or 8 minutes. So it's not limited. When you do it this way, you're not limited to 3 minutes. If you all have something you want that you think is a charter question, put together a PowerPoint, whatever you want. Staff will help you. They're really good, and they will, you can get a certain amount of time to speak. Now, I would tell you, don't take it too long because our chair will get irritated if we're sitting there until 11 o'clock at night. So, anyways, so please, if you guys have anything, this is your time to speak and get your inputs in, because I think we got a good commission up there now that will listen to you. The commissioners that we have on the BCC, I think, have done a really good job on appointing a lot of decent people who really want to do something. Okay, update 2050. Want to talk 2050?
Can I ask a question about the charter review?
Sure.
What's that email address again?
Okay, it's charter 2024 numeric number at OCCONPT.com.
OCCONPT.com.
And you can actually just Google Orange County Charter, Florida, so you'll be Orange County.
So
Yeah, Jane, excuse me, isn't the charter commission, the entire commission meeting in District 5 next month, or this month?
Yeah, August
Yeah.
21.
Yes, that's right. It's actually going to be meeting in this building. The next charter business meeting, we're doing what I call the road show now. Every month, we're going to different districts around the county. So District 5 is coming up in August, and it's coming up on
August 21st,
the 21st, isn't it? Sure. Yeah.
I believe so.
Probably. No, 17th.
What?
Let's do so.
Yeah, on CRC. I'm sorry, one month.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
do
it says
it.
August 21st. That's
21st.
You're right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's, for some reason we're in July. Oh, wait, we're in July.
when you know.
So what was that date again? I'm sorry.
It is the 21st
Of
of
August.
August
Yeah.
at 6 p.m. And I'm not sure where we're going to be set up
It's
at.
here.
Yeah,
Is it this
It's
building? Yeah, I'm not sure.
They'll probably be in the gym.
In the gym probably is. And Orange TV comes and they do the whole, it's a big thing. So they will be here hours ahead before we get there. So
So just generally on the charter review, is there a sense that Orange County needs more government?
I think we're refining it.
It's I don't think it's more government, it's a separation of powers that they're looking.
Are you talking about, what part are you talking about?
If you're talking about extending the county commission, that's.
Yeah, then,
Well, that's more representation.
that's representation. I mean, the actual cost, if you look at the cost, because that's one of the big things that a couple of the members have bringing up a lot. It's not to demean it, but we have a $6.5 billion. If we do one commissioner, it's about $300,000 a year, something like that per commissioner.
I think that's the minimal impact.
It's a really, the problem that we have right now is this charter was written in '88 when we had 500,000 people. We have 1.5 million now. And those same commissioners are now representing, instead of something like 85,000, we're up to 229,000 per commissioner. And we're gaining 100,000 a year right now. So it's getting to the point where, especially with the districts like Emily, District 1, District 4, the ones that don't represent a lot of city, they're getting killed. They just can't support the services that are being asked. Because they get inundated with phone calls and stuff. If there's a problem, they get a phone call and that's where their staff is working. I mean, they probably can tell you what they're doing. So it's just, can we, because this is the lowest level of government that we deal with.
Right.
And personally, I think they do a huge amount of work sitting in the staff. I think Orange County does a really good job. I mean, I'm pretty fiscally conservative myself, but when I seen in the school board, they have a half a staff person per person, and they have 7 commissioners, and they have about a $4 or $5 billion budget. Orange County is about $6.5 billion. It's a big county.
So we want more people in government, in the government leadership because the budget's growing?
No,
No,
because the county went from 500,000 people to 1.5 million people. So it's this division of labor among those 6 people has grown to the point where they're not able to deal with it. I mean, it's to the point where they're having to prioritize people, and you're going to get pushed down the hole if there's just not enough people to do the job anymore. It's one of the benefits. They keep telling all of us activists that growth is great. Well, this is one of the benefits of growth. We need a larger government to represent us because we have more people. That's the problem. We don't have 500,000 people anymore. I lived here for almost 50 years. So this area here was all woods when I was a kid. I remember the Pine Woods Cross really well. It's a good date spot.
So just as a counterpoint, there's a county commissioner here, and this demand you're talking about, there are only 11 people in our community here at this meeting.
Do you know how much work we have to do to get 11 people here to this meeting?
I'm not sure you'll tell me
It's just, I mean, it's to get people to come at 6 o'clock is a tough time. I mean, people prioritize their lives. I've had many people come up to me and say, "I'm glad you're doing it." And I'm like, "Oh, gee, thanks. I would have liked to analyze my life for the last 45 years."
But how did you all find out about this meeting? Email.
I mean,
You know how long it takes for us to put together the bi-weekly newsletter? Just that one newsletter takes between 4 to 8 hours to put together.
I don't. If we want a representative government, this is our representative government. We could do direct democracy, but I don't think anyone would vote. So this is our representative doc, and we don't know where it's going in this committee. You're certainly welcome to come and put your 2 cents in. We certainly will listen to it, because there are people that will listen to you, because they're trying to dig up every excuse in the world because we don't have the space. We have no space in the admin building. And there's a lot of excuses. As an engineer, that's not an issue. But representation is my biggest thing, is making sure. Another part of in District 6, when we were over in Blanchard Park a few months ago, we had 65 people show up. Commissioner Scott did a great job with this people out, and they were ranting and raving. Find those people are livid because they have a lot of issues happening in their community. The sheriff department is probably well aware of the issues there, and they're represented by 2 commissioners right now. And that sounds good, but the problem is you got divided issues there. Now you got 2 people representing, and they don't normally. It's hard to coordinate 2 commissioners. If we got an additional commission, we might be able to get them proper representation. So we have areas in our county that are not being represented as well as we should do, because that's a county area. The city of Orlando is not going to touch it. It's too poor. Be blunt. but he doesn't include people that, unless his friends have some reason to buy the land. That land is
represent Beaufort.
Yeah,
That's a whole other issue.
which one was
I
that?
said they represent Beaufort.
That's an issue. That's an issue I want to bring up about coordination of election schedules. And I haven't played out in my head yet because I got pushed back from the SOE last time I was on the CRC. So I sat down with them and talked about that issue with them because I live in the city of Orlando. What you might not realize is the way that cities do their elections is different than the general and the private. They pay for their own elections. They pay the SOE to do the election. So they pay for the polling sites and they also pay for the drop-off sites. If you want to drop off in the city of Orlando, which is a 35-mile wide city, huge geographic area, one drop-off, and it's the SOE's office. So I don't know the message. And my polling spot is not the Unitarian Church across from my house. It's usually some other random church downtown that I have to go searching for. And that's what, and it's November 7th. It's weird. So I'm going to address that probably in September to October. Because I think what I want to do is a geographic area on that one. Because I don't want to do the small cities. I certainly want to capture at least definitely city of Orlando and maybe looking at size and also population of 50-some thousand, something like that. Just to, and coordinate to the general election cycle. And I know the SOE will push back on that, but it's a representation issue, democracy in action. You know, if it's an oddball day, I have a real problem because none of us know that, oh, Patty Sheen, my district, is going to be up for re-election for the 7th or 8th time. She's doing a good job, but, you know, I'm not sure. So I see what you're saying. I understand. I have other issues. Another issue I'll bring up is the permitting process in the city of Orange County. I personally think EPD is a good organization. We have a very professional organization as part of this as the county. And as an activist, who she can attest, I have no problems going against anyone if I think they're doing wrong, but EPD generally does a really good job. What I see in the cities is annexation into the cities, and one particular is Lake Nona. They've been annexed, and the city of Orlando has no environmental protection department. They have nothing. So they rely on the state of Florida, which is understaffed, and their regs are actually much lower than what we're doing. We're actually redoing our wetland regs right now, which are actually potentially will be much better. So I think Orange County overall is doing a really good job in many of its fronts. That should spend about the Vision 2050. I think we're doing a good job. And this is as an activist, believe me. People who know me, I will criticize anyone if I think they're doing wrong. But I think EPD's done a good job. I think EPD, I'm going to make the charter is also become a very special document because it's the only place that we can actually influence the county rules over the cities too. The Supreme Court of Florida has backed that up multiple times. That we have dominance. Same thing. That's why Seminole County has rural protection because they did it in a very interesting style, which I think we're going to duplicate, which overlays the land use over that area. It doesn't say no to the city, but when they annex, they have to still accept those land use types, unless the county votes to give them. And it's only happened twice at Seminole County, which up in Winter Springs, they had to go 1 acre plots. And they said, okay, in the early days. So there's a lot of neat things. Anyways, I'm sorry, 2050. Anything else?
I haven't talked to us about it recently.
All right, so our next item up is an update on Vision 2050. So just some quick background on that. So in 2016, I won the election voting out the
commissioner that was sitting there because he was pushing forward this development that wasn't right for the rural East Orange County area. It was an urban development, to about 2,000 units, 2,000 acres in that area. So we had a BCC meeting that lasted until 2:00 in the morning. It's still record breaking. No one's broken that record yet. Lots of people who spoke and showed up. So the mayor at that time was like, okay, we have to do something. We can't have this controversial stuff happening. And she told staff, go and find some solution so we can have a plan on our future development so that it's what the people wants. So today it was rebranded. It's called Vision 2050. And so staff, they got consultants, they did a lot of work on putting together this new, so we had a comprehensive plan, but it's taking that and revising it into a more stronger comprehensive plan that brings in all kinds of studies that we've had over the years and is more targeted to putting growth where growth belongs, to have smart growth, focused on being able to have affordable housing, mixed income, and walkable neighborhoods, protecting the environment, sustainability, all that stuff is in here, economic development, the works. So there was an issue with it though when it first came before the board back in June. And one of the issues was that this consultant that they had hired wasn't from Orange County, wasn't from Florida. They were from some other state and didn't realize the ecology of Orange County in Florida or the culture of our county. And so they were trying to put what they called villages and hamlets in the rural area, which was exactly like the development that we were fighting in 2016 that got that other commission booted out. So it's like, this is not going to work here. This is not what the people want. She was like, well, this works in Virginia or Maryland or wherever it was. I'm like, that's not Florida and that's not Orange County. It's not going to work here. So I told the board, I'm not supporting this. We need to send this back out to the people because this is supposed to be from the bottom up. It's supposed to be driven by the people, what the people want. They did have some focus groups. It was during the pandemic. It was all virtual meetings. So we really didn't have the engagement with the public that we should have had on it. So the rest of the commissioners agreed. We sent it out. We did over 20 town halls in the month of June and July. It was like busy. In my district, we had 4 town halls, plus I hijacked a developers meeting for another town hall and a workshop. We've had, I'll tell you about the work. Well, we left the first meeting up to the county staff to publicize it. We only had 7 people show up. And it was like people I knew. I was like, are only my friends going to show up? So I talked to my staff. We're like, we got to do something. We can't have the engagement that we need. Only 7 people showing up. So my staff really, they worked hard. They got in there. We got a bunch of flyers out, emails, whatever we could do. The media, tried everything. The next meeting had 70 people show up, but it took Alicia, like 2 full weeks of effort just
2 weeks and we were brand new. No training. Just did our best.
Yeah. So, I mean, it takes a lot of work and effort to get that community engagement. So it was very successful. The workshop that we had, I told staff that I want to have all the comments that were collected from all these town halls, and how are we going to address those? And also some redlining of what all the edits are going to be. Staff, they really came through. They stayed up late at night. They got all this put together for us. And the workshop, they spoke. It was 62 comments. They addressed everything. They did an amazing job. There's only one thing that's outstanding. So we did have our transmittal hearing because there's going to be 2 public hearings. The first one's the transmittal, which you just had. The other one will be an approval, the final approval of it, which is going to be sometime in December. So only one thing that's outstanding is that when they did the Lake Pickett study area in the rural area to add urban development, there were places that were not entitled. And so we're asking for those areas that were not entitled to be taken out. So that's just the one thing that's left. But we're gonna look at that before the final approval is done. And at that time, it'll be addressed, hopefully. So that's where we are with that. I'm gonna go to the update on Lake Pickett North, the next item, unless anyone has any questions.
Should you repeat that last time, we're gonna bring it up to BCC again? Is that what you said?
Yeah, we're gonna look at the Lake Pickett study area and
So what's your feeling on the Lake Pickett drawback on that study area? What's your feeling?
so
What do we need to do to try to make that happen as citizens?
So as citizens, the citizens have to express their concerns and their opinions and their feedback to the Board of County Commissioners.
Either by being there or making a letter?
And being there, at the next BCC meeting.
Yeah.
But, working before then would be better because then staff can, amend before it actually comes to the meeting.
So do you understand what she's talking about, the Lake Pickett area on that? There's a big study area that on the east side. And okay, so it's these chicken heads. Okay.
Are those people by the Econ River?
Yes.
This is on the east, this is east of the Econ, and it goes from State Road 50 along the Cameron Road all the way to Lake Pickett and north all the way to the county border. Unfortunately, we lost the battle on the Grow, which is between Lake Pickett, the State Road 50 and Tanner. That study area, and all these things, you always do a study area, you have road area. So this is a big study area, it's a big rectangle going all the way up to Seminole County. And what she's trying to do is roll that back to Lake Pickett southward and take that whole section between Lake Pickett up to the county border and out of the study area. So it's a huge thing that we have to do because as long as it's there, it's a phoenix. It could come back and burn us.
The funding issue, I guess.
It is a funding issue because the impact, if that all gets developed, the urban development, it's a huge impact to the taxpayers of the whole county. So just the south section alone, all the impact is $400 million. That development only put in $150 million towards their impact. And I was asked the question, well, all the people who then move in there, all their property taxes that they pay, well, that will cover the other, I'm going to have to do the math right now. Anyway, the rest of that $400 million.
It's $40 million.
So I actually ran the numbers, based on the estimate of what property taxes all those houses will be paying and all that. It'll take over 40 years if we took all of their property taxes and put it just towards that impact, which we have other services we have to pay for, right? So, the sheriff's office, right? Sheriff and fire, they take like half of the property tax. So we're not going to give you anything. We're going to take all the money and put it to the road because they're in the deficit. I'm just kidding, but so it'll never pay for itself.
It's
all the other taxpayers in the county will pay for it. Impact fees, yeah. So we didn't do impact fees, though. We did proportionate share. Because with the proportionate share, we're actually getting more money than if we did impact fees.
Yeah, the impact fees, and we got in trouble with the state on this. We increased it to $20,000.
We didn't get in trouble.
Well,
we just got preempted.
We got preempted.
Because all the developers went up to Tallahassee and said, we don't want to pay more money for our impact.
You hear $20,000, but when you think of the services, a lane of road, a base road is $2 to $3 million with no just asphalt, not including bridge and anything like that. A simple thing like overpass on 436, that was $68 million to do that. The Greenway bicycle thing, that was over $10 million. We're building another one to connect Katie Way Trail to the Econ Trail. That will happen in a couple of years. That's going to be 10, 15, 20 million. So costs are just going out of sight for these things. On top of that, you all know it's F out there. That road is already, and DOT limits is 6 lanes. 6 lanes are up to the bridge. The bridge is designed for 6 lanes. It's 4 right now. But then, even when we did 6 lanes, it's still F. That's the problem. We don't have.
It is level of service F, not the F word.
Yeah, it's level of service. That's how we.
Although it could be both.
Yeah, if you're sitting there, it's a guy that used to drive the Kennedy Space Center every day. I can tell you what it's been like in the last 30-some years out there. So we can't. the big thing is that's part of the whole vision thing. We're trying to push the growth back into urban areas today. And that's what the big vision is all about. It's trying to densify the urban areas because the services are there, the roads, the opportunity as the density gets worse. Yes, the traffic's going to get worse, but at some point it becomes very efficient to deliver bus traffic or other types of mass transit. It becomes much, the density is too low. As you won't believe this, but the density is too low really successfully support transit in this county. So it's about 1,050 per square mile. Some sections are much higher, but we got to get that density higher, and that's what the vision is going to do. And we got to stop sprawling. That's what was Commissioner Lee Constein's message to the CRC when he spoke to us down in District 4 was they saved a lot of money by not going out on the east side. They can concentrate their services in the urban areas. They're all, everything from police service, farm service, library, all those things are in the country area. And if you move to the country, your expectation's not the same. If it is, then you need to be moving in the city. So that's what the Vision 2050, I think it does have offer. Is it perfect? No. It needs some improvements, and that's continuing education on that. So, and there's probably charter things that we need to do to it. The supermajority is one of them that we might want. We're talking supermajority, we change in the future just to make sure we don't roll back things, because things get rolled back with different commissions. We want to make it difficult for future commissions to change things just because they've had influence money to get elected.
Yeah, so we do have some maps here if you want to see. There's some existing zoning maps and then some of the changes that are going to be made.
Yeah, it's not.
I think, this one here is a really good one, I believe, because it shows you where all the red is, where the higher densities will be. And, that shows you like they're just trying to concentrate and centralize a lot of the development and services so that it's, the communities are more walkable. It's easier to be able to get to look at it. It's easier for us to be able to have a workable mass transit system, because when things are just so spread out so much, it's just harder to have an effective mass transit system.
I used to drive for links, you're right.
Yeah. So that's things that we're working on and trying to improve the way things are developed into the future. So the update on Lake Pickett North is the north part of that Lake Pickett study area that he was mentioning, which has not been entitled, but they have an application coming forward asking for another 1,500 or so units to that area, which will then, of course, cost more money to taxpayers. But so we had a community meeting on that, which I mentioned I had hijacked in order to have some presentations from the county and different things that the county is doing, because they kept asking questions like, what about flooding? What about this? What about that? And it's like, okay, those are general questions that the county could answer and that we've been working on as a board. So we got that all out of the way. And then we let the developer make his presentation. And then by that time, all the questions that were being asked were directed to that development, and which was great questions. It was a lot more effective. So we're asking questions like, well, how is this development going to benefit the community? How's it going to benefit Orange County? And such. It's a lot better questions. And
Was that Sustain?
Sustain, yeah.
Okay.
I have a question. Is it coming before LPA and zoning again, and then to y'all? How's that working?
Yeah, so that is going to be coming before the Planning and Zoning Board or Commission. And I don't have dates on that yet, though.
So should we go to that and talk, you think?
I would say both, yeah.
Okay.
So then it'll come to the Board of County Commissioners.
Yeah.
I don't have the dates, unfortunately, for those yet. Lisa, they didn't pick dates yet, right?
And it's really important that if you guys have time to get down there and speak, because as a commissioner on the CRC, you're actually more powerful in many ways than I am, because I usually try to get one of you citizens to pitch on a new thing, and I'll be the person to catch the ball. But it really is much more effective if citizens make pitch. So you actually have a lot more influence than you think you do when you make a good argument behind the dais for 2 to 3 minutes. So if you're going to talk with BZ, LPA, Gordon Spears, who's around, who I've known for 30 plus years, He's a really good guy. He's into growth management. He really wants to urbanize. He's actually a consultant for environmental. And he knew my ex-wife really well, worked with her. And they're really good people. And he is a great person to be advocate. And I know he falls on this. He's going to do the best that he can to try to make this the best he can.
All right, any questions on that? I'm ready to go to the next item. All right, so the next item is an update on the TDT BCC session, which is the tourism development tax, which has been all over the news.
You want to talk to her?
Yeah, like what should I say about that? I don't know. I personally don't feel that we should, commit future funds for the next 10 years to these billion-dollar projects where we don't know what the needs of our community is going to be. I did also ask that this tourism development tax, so we're limited to how we could use that money. We can't really use it for affordable housing or roads or anything like that. We have to use it on stuff that bring in more tourism. So we have a lack of community theaters. Like I have a lot of theater, arts and cultural groups who say they have no space to perform or practice or anything. So I brought up the idea they would use some of that funds towards community theaters across the county. Because a lot of the money goes towards, downtown Orlando area, and the rest of the county really doesn't get to see any positive impact of their arts and culture. So spreading that around outside of the outside downtown area would be good for the communities, bring some economic development to the other communities outside of downtown Orlando, create more jobs. That's like all the positive impact that could bring. And then the other idea was festivals are another idea that brings economic development to local areas of different counties that, it's been seen around the nation. So that's another thing that could be done with some of this money. The tourism development task force that the mayor had put together, they had pushed for some other recommendations as well. They had pushed for the board to go to Tallahassee and lobby for a tourism impact fee, which that funding would be able to be used for affordable housing, roads and stuff like that. Honestly, I don't see that happening though. We're not very successful at lobbying Tallahassee for anything. So, I mean, it's a great idea. We could try. What's the expression? You're doomed to fail if you don't even try, or something like that. So,
Yeah.
nothing gets you nothing.
So I mean, I think it's chapter 125.0104 is what we're talking about. If you really want it, go ahead and read it. But actually, many counties have gone forward. Coastal counties have done beach nourishment with their money. Some have done the keys are doing workforce housing.
They were the one that got approved for that.
So
that tax.
it's not impossible. I don't know. I don't think it's as hard as I think our mayors in our county have lobbied against us doing this because they have influence. Maybe.
That's a whole other story.
That's another story.
That's
saying what the newspaper
politics and influence from all these tourism corporations giving money to donations and stuff like that.
It's a multi-billion-dollar thing. I'm going to talk to the comptroller about this because I sent a pretty in-depth letter to the commission and the mayor that why either don't approve the baseball stadium, even the Dr. Phillips and the convention. Can we sequester that money and go try to get this problem fixed and then reutilize? Because this county's in serious problems right now. We have a housing crisis and we have a transit problem. We don't need, personally, in my thinking, I'd rather just cut the tax and build stupid projects like around a greenway around the Dr. Phillips. It's stupid. A thing over the T-bowl. And come on. It's like letting me cake. Meanwhile, we have multiple families living in homes right now, and you guys might know some of this. right now in this county. MFE reported that you need $82,000 to rent a two-bedroom place now in this county. I don't know many people in this county that make that type of money, unless you're doing 2 or 3 adults tag teaming on that. I mean, I've talked to a number of people around the community. The lowest I found is $1,900. I'm pretty forward when I speak. I will ask you, how much do you pay? Because my pay was in USA Today over news for 30 years with my name by it, plus my bonuses. I don't care what you know. You know exactly what I think. But I want to know knowledge. The power of knowledge is knowing what it is. And it is, so for 1,900 to 2,700, and I was just told my mother's home could rent for $4,200 a month. That's $50,000 a year. I don't know who can put a third of the income into that if you know that. So I'd rather see the money I'd rather see the tourist development tax cut from 6.5%, whatever it is today, down to just pay the payments and just give it back instead of doing more projects until we fix this problem. That's my point. And that's why I'm going to talk to the comptroller about.
Well, one of the other recommendations was that whenever we're looking at these corporations that want us to give them the money to do things like maintenance on the Amway, they're looking for a cover for the Camping World Stadium. Another one's looking for a Major League Baseball stadium, brand new, so we could bring a baseball team here.
Just like
Dr. Phillips Performing Arts Center is looking to that front lawn area to develop all of that. What was the another one?
Well, the Dr. Phillips, for example, right now.
Oh, the convention center. How could I forget that? It was like the number one. Expanding the convention center to even bigger than.
I mean, this is controversial. UCF wants some.
UCF,
I mean,
wants to
please,
do some upgrades to their
budget.
sports center.
They preempted. They cut the Ola Vista flood issue. They got extra money right now in the state. They can go get it, in my opinion. It's ridiculous to see us having to pay for a state institution's dream. I graduated from there, so.
I think it's all actually privately funded.
Why they come to $77 million?
They don't get any money from the state for any of that.
Well, let them come up with the money. The football team's making so much money, let them pay for it.
So everyone who has their hands out for these big projects or the TDT surplus, are they looking for grants or are they planning to borrow money that then gets repaid to the public office?
They don't repay it. It's more like a grant, you could say. So the county, they came before this task force, came with their presentations, put in their application for this funding. There was a matrix to grade all of these projects.
And they talk about how much public revenue they're going to generate from tourists.
Yes, how many tourists they're going to bring, how much economic.
Don't get now. Look at
And you know the game.
yeah.
And the assessment.
So why don't we hold them? Why doesn't the commission and the mayor and the controller start looking at, hey, we have this fund, you're going to have to pay it back over time at very reasonable rates. Everyone in this room, right? You have loans for your car to buy your house. Do you have to pay that? Yes, sure do. So why shouldn't the people who have the political power pay it back?
That is a great question.
That's actually a good question.
And the answer is because they don't make their money back. A lot of these operations, they don't, the Amway, for instance, why are they coming to us for funding for maintenance in the building? Don't they make enough money to keep up with it?
I mean,
Why can't, all the money,
$200 a ticket.
all the money that Camping World is making from their tickets, aren't they putting aside money to be able to upgrade the building?
$20 hot dog.
The convention center is running in the red. It's losing money. It doesn't make money.
But one of the things I found, I didn't realize this, full disclosure, I'm going to Blue Bamboo, which is a center of arts. They're applying for a grant from the TDT. When they, dollar for dollar, if they go for 10,000, they have to raise 10,000. So $1 for that. For the small performing arts centers like the Blue Bamboo, Tickleman, and other centers around the county, they actually have to raise money, which doesn't seem fair to me. I mean, I know that, they do free music on Thursdays, which the TDT, Winter Park is providing that money, so they can do that. And it's great because you get 20 or 30 students who are amazing musicians playing. But, it just blows me away that these small community arts, which are the dynamics of our community. I was against the Dr. Phillips Center just because what happened. I realized it was going to happen. The new center that is the orchestra, which is an amazing engineer, my brother worked on it. It's a totally acoustically isolated structure. But the problem is it's so expensive to rent. The orchestra can't afford to be there, so they're actually redoing the park, rocking chair theater, Plaza Live, and which is across the street from my house, and which is wonderful. But they're not going to use the building that they just put hundreds of millions of dollars into. I mean, that's the problem. That place is so expensive. Only these shows like Jackson Brown, $459 to be one ticket, or performing someone from New York. The local shows can't afford to be there. That's the shameful part about this. The arts.
Which is why there's same community theaters across the county where they can't afford.
And we're not talking about money. We're talking $10-20 million out of multiple bands could do a huge thing for our community and blossom the arts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most of us can't afford to go to this thing.
Right.
It's $200 and some dollars to show the Emily.
Yeah. Yeah. So these community theaters would give the opportunity for everyone to be able to go to a show that's affordable. And I also I want the county to give that space for free to these nonprofit theater groups, not charge them for
I
it.
mean, I'm paying $20 tonight to see a group of 4 kids playing, really cool instruments, and they're taking jazz to a different area. So it's going to be very interesting tonight to see what they do at the time.
All right. So, any questions on the TDT stuff? So that is going to come back to the board at a later time.
But please get your points out and write your letters. If you don't agree with this, write letters. Communicate with your elected officials and send it to all the people on the commission, including the mayor, and give them your 2 cents. That's how democracy is a full body contact sport.
And the other recommendation, I didn't get to finish explaining that, was that whenever we do get an application to look at what is the impact on the community. So one of the questions I asked, we had a presentation from Visit Orlando at the board, and they're like, oh, we bring all this economic development, all this money into the community. And so I asked, okay, but what is the other side of that? How much money in social services does the county pay because the tourism industry does not pay a living wage? So what's that number? And no one's been able to give me that information. I actually had a meeting with them today, and they said, well, you'd have to go to some outside consultant to do that study and find that number. So whenever someone comes, one of the recommendations was whenever anyone comes for money, asking them, well, what is that impact on the community? So when they're making the application, we could find out that data. That was another recommendation which I thought was great. So if there are no questions on this, I'm going to move it to the next item. All right. So I'm going to turn this over to Louise Alquin. I pronounced the name right. Alquin?
Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. It was raining really hard, so if you're here, you really want to be here to get to that rain. Louise Alquin. I'm a civil engineer by trade. My specialty is drainage engineering. And Emily asked me to look at some videos from Orange County of what their stormwater division is doing and what is coming. By show of hand, anybody here affected by a flood or last hurricane? Tell me a little bit about your experience or what neighborhood you're in.
Well, fortunately, our entire yard flooded, but we're a little bit up, so it didn't come in the house, just a little bit in the garage. But 2 of my neighbors' home really badly flooded and had it was just
What part time are you at?
so in Goldenrod, right?
Goldenrod here. You sir?
Not at Eola Heights. So, Lake Eola came up like almost 2 blocks away from the actual lake itself.
So
Yeah, it was pretty wild. So,
I just kind of stayed put. I biked over to my friend's place. I was like, I'm not gonna drive through that right now. Similarly, but my apartment is raised, so I didn't get inside or anything. But yeah, it was hard. It was above like the actual sidewalk. But
Yeah, I'm in the same neighborhood, so yeah, I went over to Lake Yola and checked it out, and you can canoe all
Right.
around pretty much in that area.
So I also live very close to the econ, so I went down there with a friend who used to live there, and yeah, that area is devastated, off Rouse Road, just back off Rouse Road, a little bit south of University, there's a poorer neighborhood, and it's just completely devastating.
What about you, man?
I'm over off of Econ University in a neighborhood called Watermill. And, we
Very
have,
appropriate.
right, and our retention ponds were overwhelmed. And, one of the roads that exits the neighborhood, we were measuring it every day at the crown of the road, and it was 22 inches when we started out. So people in the back half of the neighborhood could not get out to go to work. And I mean, we had to measure it every day to, let people write notes to their bosses, and, people were about to lose jobs. It was really bad. And we've since been trying to get help from Orange County to get our retention ponds redug to the correct depth and reshaped so that they're ready. So we've been talking with roads and drainage, and have not, had a fully successful recovery from it. We're still working on it.
And throughout the whole county, there's a whole infrastructure, ponds, pipe, inlets. That's what's separating, your house, your neighbor's house from getting flooded. And I think it's crucial that we give all this infrastructure the attention it needs. A lot of stuff is pretty old. Going back to the 70s, 80s, a lot of this stuff, you didn't need a permit back then.
No, it's a kidnapping. Amber Alert.
Comes on with their function of.
So,
One of the areas that I would like to see our county focus on, especially, is in supporting the drainage infrastructure that is there. The other important thing I would take away from it is we got to conserve the wetlands that we have. Wetlands are what protect us from the flooding. A lot of these worst hit neighborhoods, it used to be wetlands. They cleared it, put a subdivision there. It rained. What's going to happen? You're in a wetland, in a flood zone. So keeping that from there. I would also, one of the things that they put, that's pretty cool technologies, Emily, in there, that they call it predictive flooding models. If a hurricane's coming, they can see which areas are going to be hit. So let's actually put out fire department or whatever services need to be. You can also pumps or whatever and protect them before the flood. So just in general, I looked at the videos. I also had a colleague of mine who's a drainage engineer look at this, an expert from Texas. And yeah, he kind of agreed with me. Just it's interesting to see that it's going to be raining more and more, so we just need to protect ourselves. And the way you do it is through the infrastructure. We have to support that infrastructure. One of the things that's very important in my field of drainage engineering is you want to do the study just the same way a doctor gets your vital signs and he can kind of see what's wrong with you. Same thing with stormwater. We make a big model. Okay, this area is going to be out there, the Econ River, we think it's going to flood into this neighborhood. So the better our models are, the better we can predict these future storms. They're only going to get worse, but I think it's something we definitely protect ourselves for.
Be proactive.
Being proactive about it.
and one of the problems I think we have, especially on the east side, is just the height of our land is so low. Also, we have closed basins. We who live downtown Orlando, historically in Donna back in the 60s, they flooded with over 6 feet of water for about 3 or 4 weeks. They were underwater. And that's why they built all those drainage roads down to Rockford in Lake Eola. It was 360 in downtown basin. So that's why the Rouse Road is a historical problem because That's actually the floodplain where those homes were built. And they should never been allowed to build there. I checked that property out. I did a complete survey of the county a couple days after the hurricane. And not that I'm an expert, I'm just a computer engineer. But I went out and looked at the land. I looked at the new park that Emily was key on buying down on Rouse Road in McCullough. It didn't flood there. It stayed within that park. So that told me everything upstream was within the boundaries of its normal hydraulic flood points. And it flooded. There's some history there because that dam changed the plant communities and changed the soil. We had a muck fire. If you've been here for a long time, we had a muck fire right there for about a year. I mean, it was, Winter Park was totally, I grew up in Winter Park, and it was really bad for a year because that whole area burned because it was so dried down. But it didn't change. It actually made it worse because it dropped the landslide lower. So that, I'm not surprised what happened. And they're going to flood again. I don't know what we're going to do because, I mean, when the hurricanes come in, I'm a Florida trail guy. And what happened to our trails was the water managers pumped all the water onto the public lands like Bull Creek and Bronson, totally inundated those lands for a couple of weeks because they were trying to relieve the St. John's at the time because St. John's was flooding. 46 was underwater for a bit. You know, probably 50 got close again. So they were just pulling water out everywhere, dumping on the public lands. And the big boy rules, if St. John's goes up, Wekiva and Econ and all the tributaries will back up. No matter what you want to do, they're going to back up because you get this massive flood happening down on the St. John's. And that floodplain is a lot bigger than the floodplains of the cities. And that's part of the reason why we want to do a vision thing for the 2050, because we got to identify the areas and fortify the areas that we do live in and don't keep on spreading out. Because what I saw in Orange County is we got really hosed by the city of Orlando. They did all the Lake Nona stuff. All their stuff was fine. Those communities didn't flood. Engineering work. It tracked all that water really effectively through the systems. And the people on Lake Mary Jane was inundated. People on Lake Mary Jane had 2 feet of water in their homes. I was watching fish swimming across Moss Park Road. So it was like looking at salmon rolling over. It's amazing. Really sad.
All right, we got 4 minutes. Luis, is there anything else?
I've already talked about TPP. Do you have anything else to add on TPP?
So I just want to make a pitch for the Green Place program. I'm part of the board for Green Place, and it's through the Environmental Protection Division. And what it is a program that if somebody has a piece of land, a farm,
Can you use your mic? It's not really the
It's for Zoom. Thank you.
Yeah, they
can you hear me?
No, you might have to push it to turn on.
Testing.
Thank you.
So I just want to make a quick pitch for Green Place. It's an Orange County program. Anybody that has a piece of farm, a piece of land, maybe they inherited something, and the actual government is paying private landowners to sell their lands in order to become conservation areas. So if anybody is interested, anybody have a friend or a neighbor that you think they got this property, they don't know what to do with it, instead of seeing another development, another Walmart or something, you can actually make a state park, and every little green place on a map that you see that's a conservation is because somebody took the effort to protect it. So yeah, anybody just want to make a pitch for that? So if anybody has any leads, we're gladly buying up properties from private citizens for conservation. So if you want to see your land be a conservation instead of another little mini mart or something, so, yeah, encourage you.
Is it at market rate?
They do analysis, it is at market rate.
Real estate will take a look at it and actually negotiate. One of the things about the Green Place program is the mayor went forward with $100 million when he first announced this program. Over half the money has been committed already. So they're running out of money actually, and they've only bought 12 and 15 acres. The mayor originally wanted 23,000, which in today's prices ain't going to go that far. So this brings up a question that I had brought up in 2020 about permanent funding of the Green Place. If we truly care about doing this, then we have to funded. We do have a utility tax theoretically, it's going towards the grid. It's being, taken on other sources, it's going to other places right now. So it's something that we in the CRC might be willing to entertain or bring up the question of permanent funding source. We do have a huge need. Part of this is what Louis is alluding to is a corridor project in the state of Florida trying to preserve the corridors for animals as animals move north and south, especially with climate change. Orange County is a big problem for that because all the growth is a blockage. So there's a big EPD has been really concentrating on the east side, trying to buy parcels over there off of Howell-Scott, building on Howell-Scott, create a corridor all the way down to the Osceola border, all the way to Seminole County. So that's a big effort, and we're missing a couple big chunks there. Hopefully, this is a loan program too, a loan seller program. We can't go forcing people to sell land if they don't want to. So it's all about loaning people. So it's a great program. We've had it since 1994. Many of the properties, as Louis said, have been bought. We also, the beautiful thing about that is if we have $1, we can actually go and ask St. John's or the state of Florida, one of the other places, or even U.S. Forestry, if it's a Florida Trail situation, they would help buy the land too. So without the money, we can't partner. So that's part of the game there is partnering. But a lot of organizations from the state and federal require the local community to put up some money too. So this money can go a lot farther if we can do that. Without it, we can't do anything. We lost a number of years. 2008 was a great year too because the land purchase money was really low, but unfortunately we did away with the program in all these years. So.
Eugene, may I speak?
Yeah. You gotta speak. You gotta speak on that.
Yeah, I've got a bleeding voice.
No, you guys look at that.
It's for the Zoom. Thank you.
Online, that's why.
I was just talking with some insurance actuaries, and I want to give you an update to follow what Louise is saying. Make sure that your insurance company hasn't required you to purchase a flood insurance policy, because some insurance companies, I think the state's company has already done that, and other companies are considering it. And it's probably a good thing to do to cover yourself, because what the actuaries are finding is they're dealing with not only the one-off events, the hurricanes, but they're dealing with the accumulative effect of heavy rainstorms and flooding. And insurance companies are very good at finding the fine print, as you well know, and they're pushing back because there's a substantial difference between rising water and windblown water. And if they say that it's windblown water, they have to pay. If it's rising water, it's got to be covered under your flood insurance and they can deny the claim. So we have situations all over the county, and this gentleman was talking about it, that you've got to be very, very careful about what your insurance company is doing and what they're going to do. I know it's hit the press, and one of the companies, several of the companies have already failed, and I think there's one more shoe to fall, major company to fall, but that's my personal thing. But for your situations, your personal situations, make sure that you do have flood insurance if you have that risk as such. And number two, if you're not aware of it already, the state of Florida has a law that requires a mitigation. If you do on an older home, generally, you redo it for wind, it will cut your policy costs substantially. And it involves having a contractor or inspector from the insurance company come over. Each insurance company does it differently, but it's a requirement by law. It's called wind mitigation. And if you're not familiar with it already and you have an older home, I would suggest that you call your insurance broker or salesman or whatever and check and make sure that can cut your insurance costs very dramatically for covering the wind. But again, rising water, you have to have flood insurance for that. And it's becoming more and more of a problem. The actuators in Florida, I'm sorry, not I can't think of the term. that are determining the rates are looking at the rising, at the ongoing storm situation and intensity of the rain, along with the hurricanes. Hurricanes make the news. Storms, can cause the same amount of
Bob,
damage.
is there a program that the state has right now that will pay for the?
Yeah, some of it, yeah, you're right.
Is it?
Right, some of it, but not all of it.
You have to Google it, but the state of Florida currently has a program that actually will pay for the inspection in your homes. I had it done.
I think
a
it's,
while back.
I think it's an income thing and it's relatively low, isn't it? So I don't
I
know.
mean,
Do you?
I got it. So
Okay.
all right, I'm not rich, but I'm not poor either. Well, home, I guess. Retiree.
So question on the Green Place program, is that just buying land or is it also buying development?
It's buying fee simple land. It's buying everything.
Because you have a lot more leverage if you buy development.
There's no, I don't think we've ever done that in the county conservation easements only. The state of Florida typically does that, and Fish and Wildlife US has done that.
Yeah.
So St. John's has done that. So the state agencies and the federal has done that. I don't think.
Conservancy, they do that.
Yeah, they do that, but we're looking at this as a kind of for parkland and stuff. It's part of the. For
You
the
actually
citizens.
want to use the land.
Yeah, because I mean, conservation is nice, but we can't, unlike England, we're not allowed to touch the land. We don't have the concept of rural lands.
Well, the county can do conservation easements, which,
I don't think we've done it, have we?
well, it's
Well,
it's by donation though. So let's say if you own a piece of land, you don't ever want it.
Speaking of that.
So let's say you have a piece of land and you don't ever want it to be developed, you could do a conservation easement on it with the county, which is an agreement, and then that takes away any entitlements for development on that property. That's by donation now, typically.
Yeah, the other concept, transfer, you actually sell your development rights. It's a process that's been pioneered, I think the Nature Conservancy pioneered it.
Yeah, we-
You actually sell off your development rights, so you can, if you're a homeowner, landowner, you can capture some economic value, but the cost is much lower than if you're buying the land piece.
I mean, I don't think we have this program. I know our brother lives in King County, in Seattle. He has a salmon stream in his backyard. He lives on a couple of acres. So he gets a conservation easement on that property, and he got a tax benefit from the property tax. And since his neighbors have joined in, it encourages people to do this. So if his neighbors did it, which they did, they all get a higher percentage of offset of that. But the good thing about that, from my point of view, is conservation. It's really difficult for them to convert that back to developable land. That's
what I mean.
It has to be paid
for Orange County to really extend the scope of what's protected.
And it's something, I mean, it should be brought up to the county commission as a way to maybe offset.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with that concept. Can you explain a little bit? Maybe
It's just a little transfer of development rights.
transfer of development.
Yeah, conservation easement.
Yeah, it's like when you're actually buying a conservation easement from a private landowner, and the cost, is some percentage of buying land fee simple, that it achieves the same result.
It's think of it in multiple layers of things on land. That is one thing. Mineral rights is another thing. Typically in SIP, I think you don't own mineral rights, but in some states people own mineral rights, and in some states you own the water rights.
All right, just to respect everyone's time, so we do have the expanding EPD. To respect everyone's time, we have the expanding EPD reach on municipalities. I think you had mentioned that
Yeah, I
earlier on
talked
the
about that.
CRC.
That's something I'm gonna try to bring up probably in September. I want to try to get some things done.
All right, and then we had a new business that was added on the agenda, which was about the YMCA. Would you like to speak on that?
Sure.
You guys speaking to the mic.
All right, I was on Nextdoor today, and there was a group of people in this east part of town that were dismayed that the YMCA at J. Blanchard Park is still closed due to the water damage that happened during Hurricane Ian. And so people were kind of, talking back and forth, and someone said that
the YMCA is not gonna reopen it, that they're gonna be leaving, and that I guess that building is actually owned by Orange County. And so I was hoping maybe you had an update on it, or I thought it was an interesting concept that someone had kind of pitched in and said, what if residents got together and asked, could it become something like this facility, like the Orlando Magic, or maybe the soccer group, because, soccer's a big deal right now with young people, and I don't know if that team has a rec center that they sponsor, but I thought it was a really interesting idea and might help solve a problem.
I have a thought on that, Commissioner, you can tell me.
Yeah, so the building is owned by Orange County, and the Y was leasing it. The lease I know was going to expire soon. So they were going to renew it, but then we had the hurricane flooding. So that probably changed their minds about them renewing that lease. But I think that's a great idea. We could talk to Matt Sudemeyer about that, because I know I've been asking him for parks for a community meeting room in that park, because I have no meeting space for my district besides this and Bithlow, and nothing like really in that other area. Like there's a whole middle area with no meeting space for me. So that would be very helpful. I know Eugene is on, he's my appointee on the parks.
You read my line on this one, you read it. Yeah, so I'll bring this up. I have a meeting on the 10th at the Clarcona First Park, and we're doing it out to the districts, even for them, for the Parks and Advisory Commission. So I represent D5. So I will bring this up as an issue to Matt and Matt and his managers that we're concerned about YMCA not doing anything, and what can we do?
Okay, because it was interesting, one of the gentlemen that works on the pool there, he chimed in on the conversation, and I mean, he's still, the pool is pristine and perfect water, and he's treating it, and it's.
So it's still good, it hasn't turned green. Good.
Right, exactly.
Good. As a swimmer, I appreciate that.
So it's still a viable building, I think.
Yeah, so, I'll bring this up. I will definitely bring it up on the 10th. I would, call them up, find, if you want to give them an agenda, and come out and speak on this issue, it'd be great. Because the squeaky wheel does get the oil done. And she does a really good job on it. She gets a lot of things done because she's squeaky. So it helps. So this is a good thing. The YMCA, would that be a great facility? Because we really don't have a lot of things in that area, citizens.
Thank you.
I just want to say that little YMCA, it's funny you mentioned it, that's kind of haunts my heart, because I grew up in that area. I grew up right around Bones Community College East Campus on the east side. There's not too many things for a young middle schooler or high schooler to do in that area. So I remember, Fridays, they had free YMCA days, and I would ride my bike and I'd get my little workout in, and 15-year-old me would be pumped getting out of there. So yeah, I hope it comes back to life. And I didn't know anything about that, but I really hope so kids like me that grew up in that area can have somewhere to go.
I was under the assumption that it was not that the county wasn't going to reopen it, it's because of the location of the building, and they are concerned that this may happen again.
That's a discussion for our public works to see on that predictive modeling what they have for that and how that would look. But
we'll bring it up, and Matt, who's the director of Parks and Rec, and his people will do the analysis and come back and say yay or nay. And if it's a yay, then it's a budget line, which then we go, make a proposal to the county commission money. So it's, but it can get into the process. Let's do analysis and see what we can do with it.
okay, so before we leave, I don't know if you have anything to say. I know you're new on the board, it's your
Yeah.
first time sitting on.
Let's say that's my first time sitting up here, so I promised myself I'd be quiet and just listen and observe and learn. But yeah, I've had some thoughts on all these points, but I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
Other than to say that on the county charter piece, John, sir, and some of the questions you talked about, expansion of government, it's an issue with all counties like Orange County that are expanding at such a fast rate of growth. Something that I saw a stat from NACO, which is the National Association of Counties, that said the top 25 counties, 18 of them are grappling with their current governance structure and how they can do a better job of increasing and improving voter representation. So whenever you have a fast rate of growth, you're going to have segments of the population that believe that their voices matter less than the majority. And so then you'll get a push from those edges to change the governance structure so that they have more of a voice. But then there'll be pushback from the majority of populations that want to have their voice heard more. So it's that constant American governance give and take. And Commissioner Bonilla knows this, some of these folks up here knows. I moved here several years ago from Wake County. I was a county commissioner there. That's Raleigh, the second fastest growing county in the nation at the time. And we went through the same process. We were not a charter county, but everything from county commissioner term limits to the length of time to our various regions. I represented a district of 285,000 people. As Eugene said, that there's a perception after a certain point that that's just too many people to manage. I didn't have a staff, and I earned $20,000 a year. I mean, that was as chairman of the board. So very different cultures here and there and elsewhere around the country, but the premise is the same. How can government, which exists to serve the people, best represent their interests and serve back, give money back, give quality of life issues back, reinvest back. And so that give and take is before us now with the review panels and your input matters. I can tell you as a commissioner myself, you come to those meetings, you speak, you will be heard. You can certainly send emails, and I'll just be straight with you. I would get thousands of emails. I didn't have a staff. I read as many as I could. I'm an old teacher and principal. I tried to do my homework and prep and do all those things, but you only have so much time. Seeing somebody in front of you, when you know you're on television and the whole capital county is looking out, 1.8 million people are looking back at you, you're going to listen and respect and honor those people. It's not that you don't, the emails, but they're emails, right? They're emails. Show up, you will be heard by all members of the board. And here in Orange County, you're only elected by your representative district. I come from a place, and a lot of counties are a place where you represent your district, the whole county votes on you. So you are accountable to everybody. This is a little different. It makes it tough. The politics are very different here and tougher in many ways. And then don't get me started on the strong mayor government structure. But anyway, I have thoughts on all these things, but I just appreciate, as a new member of this panel, that you are here. You showed up. As the old history and government teacher, this is how it's done, folks. It's not distant people off on a city on a hill. This is how it's done. So you showing up is absolutely essential. It's essential to the process, and come to the BCC meeting, speak. Staff will hear you. Squeaky wheels work. They work. Show up, come, have your friends come. It makes a big difference, and that's how things get moved. It's all about priorities and influence. That's the way it is. Thank you.
Thanks. So, thank you. And before we leave, I just want to cover what would you like to see in the next agenda for the next meeting? So we can get that agenda ready.
I'll give you more updates on what CRC is. That's my priorities right now.
Okay.
3 appointments a week.
Any other business for the next meeting?
Maybe Louis can bring us back a Green Place update, because he has a meeting coming up Wednesday. We can come back about the TDT, because we'll probably have some more updates in the Vision 2050 where that's at.
Anything you'd like further on stormwater or environmental?
Stormwater, the rules are coming up, so that we got the new rule sets coming up. So,
yeah, we just Let's feedback. Also, so I'm working with my office on some, because I know you all would like to do some, so we talked about doing like field trips for the district. So, we'll host it, the council here, invite the public to see different things in our district. What was the other one that you guys did? We went to the Orlando Wetlands, was it, or?
We went to the,
Sandhill?
Sandhill, yeah, the Sandhill off Lake Pickett.
Yeah.
It could be pretty wet right now. Getting a lot of rain. I mean, actually, if you haven't, has anyone seen the new boardwalk out at the Orlando Wetlands?
It's amazing.
If you haven't been, that's actually would be a really cool thing. You get right out to Roseate Spoonbills and see, they're almost finished nesting now, but it's a great boardwalk. And if you haven't been to Orlando Wetlands, it's pretty amazing. I was cutting edge technology, still is cutting edge. The people around the world fly there to see that. And that's the cutting edge of water treatment, polishing water. So that's essentially what it's like polish.
Okay, so Orlando Wetlands will be on the list for field trip locations. So we'll look at different areas of the district that, we could kind of introduce the public to that may not know what's in your backyard. We have a lot of places like that.
I mean, we can take them out to Salvage Creek too. I mean, we have the Florida Trail, we have cut a new trail through that section because we're doing a reroute eventually. But then we have about 2 miles of the trail that's well maintained in that, plus there's other blue and white trails. So if you haven't been to Savage Creek, is that where the baseball, soccer fields are, right? Soccer football. As you drive on past 520, going towards Christmas. So that was actually Green Place property, and they took the front end of it and utilized it as a high intensive park section. But 85, 90% of it's still Green Place.
Yeah, and so another couple of things is like I know movie night was one thing that they all.
I need an update on Sustainia and see it's Sustainia or
Sustaining.
Sustainia.
And then my office also is looking at doing volunteer days, which I did back when I first got to office. I want to pick that up again. So it's like my office going out to do volunteer activities and inviting the public, to come with us. So, different things that we're looking to do. Alicia, I'm going to turn it over to you if there's any other announcements that I'm forgetting about that we should share about our office.
While I think about that, I wanted to also say that I know a couple people creeped in during the meeting, and if you just have time before you go, we would really appreciate you signing the sign-in sheet. If you're interested in keeping up with these kind of events, we have EmilyBonilla.com, which has all of these events and more. If you're really interested in staying plugged in, I definitely recommend going to that. The staff is really working on keeping that as up to date as possible. I would just say keep a lookout for there. We have a ton of really cool events coming up. We're actually taking some time to plan out the entire year because it's going to be a big one. In the meantime, thank you so much for coming. It means a lot to my staff who isn't here right now, but Alexis and Veronica and I and Laura are very happy when we see as many constituents and the community come together. And we're always available for any calls or questions. Call the office, and we're trying to be as available as possible to you. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out. Sorry about taking so long.
No, yeah, we're gonna. Thank you. Get on out and respect the kiddos.